Hi everyone, welcome to the Boys Club. I'm Clarke Wolfe.
I'm Holly Payne.
And this is our True Detective Perspective. So last night, episode 6.
Haunted houses.
Haunted houses. We are getting really close to the end of season 1 of True Detective, which as you all know is an anthology. So once this is done, goodbye Martin Hart and Russ Cole.
Yeah, but I had a question.
Yes.
Maybe you've read up on this because I don't know. I haven't. But I'm assuming that Pizzolatto is the writer for the next.
Yes.
And he's going to continue.
So yes, I did do a little research about this weekend actually, because I didn't know this, but apparently FX was also in the bidding war for True Detective.
I'm so glad HBO got it.
Yeah, me too. It was FX, Showtime, and HBO.
Okay.
And the president of FX just recently gave an interview saying that Nick told him that the inspiration for the anthology of True Detective came from American Horror Story.
Really?
Yes, he loved the idea of a new location.
Well, it was groundbreaking.
So smart.
Even if you're not a fan of every single season, you have something new to look forward to every season.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're not a fan of every single season, which I wasn't of Asylum.
They clear the slate.
Exactly.
And then,
start all over. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So that actually was the inspiration for the creator. So yes, I think a la Ryan Murphy will probably be overseeing season 2 of True Detective, but we don't know. It hasn't, as far as I know, it hasn't been confirmed that he will be writing it as he did with
But
this
he'll still
season.
be executive producing.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So he'll still have his fingers. He'll be the puppet master, so to speak.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
I wonder, though, that's actually a really interesting point. I wonder if they will continue with the idea of one writer, one director for the whole season.
You know what? It worked so well
I agree.
for this series. I think it's, I think it could work for the next one.
I agree.
I can't imagine why it wouldn't.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of been the general consensus from both the actors and the director and the writer and obviously creator. That I've read from all of them is that it was a hard shoot.
Yeah.
It was hard to do so many pages in a day. It was hard to go
be
over
on location for that long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think it really paid off. So I would love to see that trend continue.
Me too. And actually one of the things with other series that I've enjoyed but have had issues with is, for example, there's so many to choose from. Breaking Bad, Hannibal, you name it. But when I was telling you about Hannibal, how much I liked Hannibal, there was one episode that was just glaringly different from the others, and and they had different writers, different directors for each episode. They had some of the same directors for various episodes, but you can have a consistency with having the same director, same writer.
Yeah.
In a series. It's so much stronger than if you have it kind of, all right, we're going with this director, we're going with this writer, because that's a bigger team you have to pull together, and I just feel like that's one of the strengths of this show. Well,
it feels like a proper mini-series in the sense of the term. I actually don't know if True Detective is being considered for awards recognition as...
fucking better be.
Well, what I mean is in the category of miniseries or in the category of drama.
Right.
I don't know, because it was actually really surprising to me when American Horror Story came out and it was all in the miniseries category.
Yeah.
I didn't know that that's what they were calling it.
Yeah.
But that is what they're calling it. So I think for the miniseries format in general, obviously American Horror Story didn't do this, but having one writer and director makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's a miniseries. It's like a compact, concise, long story. So anyway, I hope that they continue with the trend. I think, what they've been doing on True Detective. I think it's really smart. But Pizzolatto also said that it might be in a different time period.
Love that.
I think that would be super cool. Like an actual noir, maybe. Who knows?
Could be.
But yeah. So anyway, all right. So last night's episode, I really dug it. We had mixed reactions. But
I didn't dislike the episode. I had different reactions for different reasons. But
okay. Fair enough.
Dislike it.
To me, it might be my favorite episode of the season so far. I just thought that we got a whole lot of character development coming forward, and a lot of great performances, like a lot of really shiny acting moments, I think, were there.
And as we were talking about before we started shooting, the one-liners.
The one-liners were so great. I was talking to a friend of mine today, actually. He and I had been talking about just these really great... What was it that Woody Harrelson said a couple of episodes ago about the captain of the horror team? The horror squad? Or something like that?
He's had some zingers. I'm glad they gave some to Rust this
Exactly.
episode.
I feel like Rust had all the good ones. Although, when Rust Cole said you should probably think about killing yourself or whatever it was that he said... It was just like this.
That was more like that was like a punch to the gut.
I could not believe and the way he delivered it, and the context of how he delivered it, like what he had said right before that, and then it just comes out. I was like,
oh, he's endearing himself to her. No, you can trust me. You can trust me. Kill yourself.
It was so horrible.
Yeah,
it was so horrible.
And also, I wanted to make a shout out to my friend Azure Parsons, who was Charmaine Boudreaux, who was the baby killer.
Yeah, who should kill herself? Don't kill yourself!
But Azure, you did a fantastic job, and it was so great to see you in that scene with Woody and McConaughey, because, man, you were with the two powerhouses.
They were great.
Go Azure.
She was great. She was super great. I'm sorry that I hope, don't kill yourself. Don't listen. So I really loved that, and then we, of course, got into a bit more of the personal stuff with the relationships.
Yeah.
We had our suspicions confirmed.
Yes, that's one of the things that I really liked about this particular episode, and this was actually one of the things that changed my viewpoint about the series as a whole.
Okay.
From last week, I was really, as many of us are, paying attention to the minutia, paying attention to, the mythos of the Yellow King, who all these people, all these players we don't know about yet, are to each other, and how they are related to the murders. And this episode kind of changed my mind a little bit on that, because I felt like the details are not as important now. I felt like the show isn't about that. That's not what the show is about. I feel like the show is, like, everything that we've been given is what the show is. And to keep going after Easter eggs, to try, as Patton Oswalt saw the yellow crown, in the background. I love that he found that. But you can make yourself crazy looking for these things, and I was last week. I was like, and then he said this, and then there was the stars, and so I don't think that that's what Nick Pizzolatto is actually trying to get across. I think it's much more about the characters and much more about the development of these people, which is what we saw in this episode.
But to the mythology's credit, I do...
Not to dismiss the mythology,
no, of course
because it's what's fascinating about
Of course, but I think that to the mythology's credit, and to... That is important, and obviously it's important, but I mean...
It's a tone.
It is, and it aids the characters. Like, they're not mutually exclusive. And I think that's the thing that this show is doing so well, that other genre-ish shows haven't really been able to do, is have the mythology serve the characters.
Yes.
And actually
they're the support. It's the foundation.
Exactly.
That's what it is. It's the foundation, and everything else is built on that foundation. And it feels like, we can keep chipping away at this foundation to figure out what that is, but really what's important is what's
for
on the
sure.
surface.
And the mythology also adds this really beautiful texture.
Yes.
This really beautiful, context, like supernatural context almost.
Yeah.
Which is really, really smart. I think that's the thing that's the reason that it's making smart people like yourself and our viewers intrigued by this mythology, is that it is this totally extra beautiful layer of complexity and drawing those parallels. It's almost like an academic exercise.
It is, and I think that what happened with telling us early on about the Yellow King and getting our excitement up about this mythos is that it painted the whole series with like a brush. It was like, it's like there's once you did the homework yourself, if you're one of those viewers like us that did the homework and got into it to figure out who the Yellow King was and what the references were, you know that it's about madness, so it's already saturated in that.
Right.
So it's saturated. It's like, and I'll say it too, just even having the word yellow be thrown in there, it's another, it's a brush stroke, you know what I mean? So I feel like that's what I took away more from this episode than I had with previous episodes. I was getting really hung up on all the little details, and this time I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go with it. I think they're not in my opinion, I don't think that they are, they're going to do a bait and switch. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about, I think everything we've seen is, I think we're all pretty much on the right track. You know?
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be surprised when we find out that it's a cult. We're not going to be surprised when we find out that it's a church, because that's where they've been leading us.
I think you're right.
You know?
It remains to be seen, though. I feel like this is just, I can assume, but I can't guess. Yeah. Like, if you said, Clarke, there's $1 million on the line, make a guess, I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going broke for that.
I know, I can't guess. I can't even, but I can kind of go, oh, well, maybe. Yeah. In terms of the mythology, I'm still not taking off the table for my own personal theories that somehow Marty's involved. I still am not taking it off the table. It still makes sense to me.
Okay.
And so, but the thing is...
And my point is, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Not that I don't care, but it doesn't carry the weight that it did at one time. For me. It's not about figuring out who the killer is. It's more about just now immersing myself in what has been already displayed for us. So,
well, so speaking of that, let's talk about the big stuff that happened last night. For me, speaking of one-liners, by the way, we got a great one a couple of episodes ago where Marty was leaving the whorehouse and gave the girl the money. We saw her again last night.
Yeah, you called that. That was good.
And Rust said in that episode, "Are you making a down payment?"
Another good line.
Such a good one-liner. Such a good one-liner. And then, turns out, he was. That was so weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was so creepy.
It made it so much creepier.
Just so creepy.
Oh my God. She was jailbait just a few years ago.
And also, she was a fucking sex slave. Or a hooker. A couple of... And a child prostitute.
Well, she's working for T-Mobile now, so is it really that different?
So it's all better. Do you think T-Mobile knew that that's where their product placement was going to be?
Well, if you're an ex-hooker, come work for us.
By the way, I've worked retail, and our shirts do not fit like that. I just want to say. When I worked at Best Buy, my T-shirt did not fit like that.
No.
Just say it.
It's a box.
Just say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marty relapses.
Yeah.
And
I love that we get to see that moment too. He's like, fuck.
Yeah, he just totally went for it.
Actually, you know what? I want to bring up a point about that scene in particular, because I felt like they went a little overboard with the emasculating or not emasculating, but like, oh boy, he's definitely going back to sex with hookers because, look, he's carrying a bag of tampons and maxi pads. I'm sorry, tampons and maxi pads, by the way, too. Yeah, women don't do that. It's one or the other. It's not,
He does have 3 girls in the house.
I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. You never know.
But in any case, I was like, all right, that's a little heavy-handed. Not that it was a big deal, but...
Well, I would like to just echo that, build on that real fast, and we don't have to get into it, and it's something Holly and I talked about briefly earlier today, but True Detective has a little bit of a lady problem.
A big
lady
big
problem.
Little lady problem.
We don't have to get into it here. Not the point of this discussion.
No.
We
doesn't
can
take away from the fact that we
fucking love the show, obviously. Yeah. But the ladies are having, and these two characters, for two characters who say that they care so much about these women and children, they don't really treat the women and children.
No, I liked what you said. We were talking earlier before the show. We were talking about this, and Clarke said, they're not good to women or children, and they're not good to women children.
That's just so. That is true. They are not good to women children. Yeah. But gosh, it's complicated.
Yeah, you just gotta
kind of just move on.
Move on. Keep
and
going with it.
Think about it later.
Even so far as Maggie's character too, it's like.
Yeah, let's talk about Maggie.
Yeah.
We got a lot more from Maggie last night. Whoo boy. Now, we had posited on this show, or guessed on this show, that there was going to be an affair between Rust and Maggie.
As many of us did, I'm sure.
Yeah, that one I think a lot of people saw. Although, I was talking to a friend earlier today, and he was like, I did not see that coming.
I actually talked to another friend today who said, I didn't see that coming. And
I will tell you that they tricked me, because when Maggie's in her confessional, and she says, Rust Cole has integrity. What was the word? She
said integrity. She said he's a man with integrity.
Right, and then and then I was like, oh, so okay, she's gonna like show up and jealous, and he's gonna be like, I can't.
Oh, you thought that was...
I thought that's what was going to happen. Because even though we knew, like, leading up to this that they were probably going to bang.
Yeah, but you know what? This show has already proven to us if there's an opportunity for a sex scene, we will see the sex scene.
Last night's sex scene, not Maggie and Rust, but the Beth and Marty.
Was that gratuitous, or is that just me?
A
little gratuitous,
gratuitous. Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of asses.
Yeah, it was a little Game of Thronesy.
Ooh.
You know, as far as like, all right.
Whatever. Anyway.
Give them tits, they love tits.
Yeah, teen buddies. Okay, so Maggie. So, Maggie, basically propositions Rust when she finds out that Marty's cheating again.
Yeah.
And, Rust goes for it.
Rust takes the bait.
Takes the bait. Now, Holly and I might have different interpretations of this scene. I felt like this was one of the first times in a long time that we had seen Rust be kind of vulnerable. We have our production assistant back again. Everyone say hi to Tiger.
Say hi to Tiger. Hi, Tiger. Okay, go away, Tiger.
But I felt like this was one of the first times in a long time that we had seen Rust's humanity sort of come forth. And what I mean by humanity is not like his humanitarian, like not the idea that he's really defensive over children, that he's solving this case, mostly probably because he's obsessed, but I think also because he sees wrong, and he's really kind of latched into that.
Yeah. I was also thinking more about it too, and I was thinking, one thing we don't really know that much about as far as Russ is concerned, we don't know about his marriage from before. We don't know how deeply he was in love before, how much that hurt him once his child, obviously how much losing his child hurt him, but then the subsequent falling apart of his marriage. He's definitely taken it very hard and gone in a completely different direction so that he has this laser focus we were talking about last week where he has to throw himself into the job just because there's no other alternative. Otherwise he ends up falling, he'll probably
self-destruct.
Well, that too, but also the fact that he'll have to deal with himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And to have something, as we all know, if you're going through something, you to have some other objective and to put your focus in that. A distraction.
Yep.
And that's what it's become obviously more than a distraction. But I feel like maybe the first, you were talking about it before, but maybe the first real, person to get him or to
connect
is Maggie.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think that what the relationship that Martin and Rust have is more familial than anything. It doesn't strike me as a friendship. It strikes me almost as an obligation. And not in a bad way. Like when I say...
And it is, though, because they're partners.
Exactly.
So it is an obligation.
It is an obligation the same way that your family is an obligation. Right. And sometimes you don't necessarily get along with your family.
Right.
But you're bound to them.
You don't pick your family.
Exactly.
He says that. Marty says that in the first episode. You don't pick your family and you don't pick your partner. There you go.
Yep, I think we're onto something. So yeah, but that was, to me, watching Matthew McConaughey, you all know I'm obviously a huge fan of his, but last night, my heart broke for him with the Maggie thing. To me, it struck me as this was somebody that he felt something for.
And had trust in.
Yes, and trusted her.
Yeah.
And thought maybe, who knows what he thought, but I don't think he thought that she was going to betray him like that.
No.
And it happened so fast.
Yeah.
It happened so fast.
Yeah, that whole scene is actually very short. I mean, it's not, it's over in a flash, but it hits so hard.
Ugh. Just awful. I mean, and just when he was telling her to get out, in his voice, the tone in his voice, it was just like, wow, you're seeing. And then, of course, we find out that he goes off he quits the force. Yeah. He's getting into fights. Yeah. He's disobeying the orders of his boss, and he's getting in serious trouble for it. And it kind of all unravels from there. And he basically quits life.
Yeah, I feel like the emotions that he had in that scene with Maggie when he's telling her to get out were more deeply felt and more authentic than even when you see Marty later beating the shit out of Rust.
Yeah.
When he's, in his head, you beat up the guy who fucks your wife. You know what I mean? But the emotion and the connectivity is not. There's a disconnect, as there is with Marty, and we've seen that in so many other examples.
Yeah, I think the betrayal he felt from Maggie was the most human type of betrayal that he could ever feel. Yeah. Meaning, if Marty turned on him, you know what? Okay, like we're bound by business. We're bound by obligation. We're not bound by some sort of human choice.
Yeah.
Whereas the Maggie connection, I just, it felt the most human.
Have you noticed too that in past episodes, one of the things that Russ never wants to talk about is Maggie?
Yeah.
Every time Marty brings it up, when they're at the bar, he's like, it's none of my business. I don't want to talk. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to the case. So, he's obviously making a gesture of, that's not somewhere I want to go. Maybe it's for more reasons than we were.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely, and like Holly and I were talking earlier. I don't think that Rust ever saw, being the knight that rides up on a white horse and rescues Maggie from her bad marriage and whatever. But I also I think he thought there was more to them. And
you think so?
See,
I differ with.
Yeah,
I don't think I don't think that there was anything more than that moment. Except that he trusted her and felt like she had more integrity than she turns out to have. But I don't think there was any sort of we were talking earlier about there being any kind of romantic, I don't feel that there was any, not that that's what you're saying, but I don't feel like there was more than a connection of, that's a good person. I don't want to fuck with that, and then having it flipped after he leaves the force and, they're both intoxicated and all of these the situation presents itself and he goes for it because of his carnal instincts. And then she pulls the rug out from under him so dramatically that, it's like he's seen a lot of crap and he's seen a lot of emotional pain, which is why he pushes it down so much. So now it's just happened again.
Yeah.
And it was very, very powerful.
Yeah, really awful. So, what
I'm trying to think of the other scenes that were really big markers for this particular
episode. I would like to talk about the final scene between... first there's a church.
Yeah. Well, we talked to Billy Lee Tuttle in this one, too. We talked to the Reverend, who's now drunk, and says some things about the church that are, that... I can't remember the guy's name. Again, I'm not keeping a Bible of all of these characters' names, but the pedophile that was in the church, that they try to basically quiet that story down.
Right.
So obviously the Reverend knows more. I think it felt to me that Rust got what he needed from him. Yeah. So he's done with that. He's putting the pieces together, but I think he's already got a theory of who's responsible. For
sure. Absolutely. I also, I think that we're definitely onto something there. I also was really interested in the scene between Marty and Rust when Rust flags him down in the truck. And the image with the gun where he checks the gun.
Oh, the final scene.
Yes. Yeah. So earlier in the show, when Marty and Rust get into their altercation, it's also just such a brilliant touch to me that everybody is kind of on their game was Marty knew in the past when he and Rust were about to kick each other's asses,
right?
Put that gun in the...
That was a good point. We were talking about this earlier before we shot this, and Clarke pointed out that that he puts his gun away before he's going to beat the shit out of Rust.
Because he knows. He's like... Because when he stopped, actually...
And he connected it back to the first scene with the teenagers, too.
Yes.
Man to man.
Yes.
The man's fight.
So there's a couple of things going on here, I think, and it's something we saw in Breaking Bad. A lot of the mirroring, like a lot of the same imagery that would, come back Breaking later. Bad was good at that, Good with the mirroring. So when Marty's going to fight Rust outside after he finds out that Rust has slept with Maggie, and he stops, I immediately thought he's going to take his jacket off, right? Because he knows he's going to fight, so he's not going to do it with a blazer on.
Right.
And but the first thing he does is he takes his gun off and he puts it away because he knows he's going to shoot a son of a bitch if he takes that gun outside. Exactly. Takes the jewelry off, takes the jacket off, and goes.
Right.
Later, in the final scene, after Rust has flagged him down, we see, once again, Marty dealing with his gun, but instead he's checking to see if it's loaded.
Yeah.
And then he puts it back on.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah. It makes me nervous.
Yeah. Well, I think we're both of the mindset that Russ is going to die. Right?
Yeah.
Are we? Are we on that page? Not necessarily in the next episode.
Oh, no, but at some point.
At some point.
I don't want to believe it.
No,
but
I just want to believe it.
I think it's going to happen.
I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, so that's an option. Or the gun's going to come back into play later, and who knows. Okay, so the other thing, what we were talking about...
Or...
yes.
Marty's going to use the gun on somebody else.
Exactly.
And, it's here. I'm just coming up with this right now, but wouldn't it be neat? I don't know if this is going to happen. Wouldn't it be neat if Rust brings him back into the case and includes him on what he's found out? And, well, maybe they don't bro it out, but, they're back on the case.
Well, I think that's a great point, because Marty has been protecting Rust.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know why, necessarily, but in these conversations with these detectives in present day, we know that Marty's kind of going, guys, I'm telling you right now, you got it wrong, whatever, kind of like deflecting away from Cole.
Mm-hmm.
So what we don't know is why. And how I could connect it, I don't know, I'm not hypothesizing it, back to earlier in the episode,
right,
is the idea that Marty walks in to talk to the kids who were having sex with his daughter.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, we can do this one of two ways. We can do this and put you in jail, or you can face me like men.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to beat the shit out of you.
Which is what he did.
So, I don't know, I'm not guessing this, but is it a possibility that Marty is protecting Rust so that he can deal with him for himself, or not? Or he's protecting Rust for some other reason?
I think that there's so much lingering hate there that my impression of him grabbing the gun there wasn't a lot of forethought. It's like, is the gun loaded? Good. I'm prepared for this, whatever happens. And if I have to shoot that fucker, I'm going to kill him.
I will. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I think that there didn't seem to be that too much premeditation, because there wasn't time for it, really. So I feel like that's, whatever they get into next. And one of the things that you mentioned also when we were talking about this earlier was that Nick Pizzolatto has talked about the acts being broken up.
The act, that's important.
Yeah, and the last two, the first was...
the first three.
And then...
and the second three.
Three, and then the last
two episodes.
7 and 8 are Act 3, so I think we're going to see something... We're not going to be anticipating what we're going to see. I mean, I think we're going to be surprised again. I would be more surprised if I saw Martin kill Rust than I would be if any other option happened. That would be surprising to me, and it would be. I hope it wouldn't be a disappointment. So far, nothing in the show has been too big of a disappointment, but it would have to they'd have to play it out in some way that was really juicy for me to be really, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because that would be a betrayal, because there is a bond between them. Whatever that bond is, there's a bond there. And like we said, it's not familial. I mean, it's more familial than it is.
It's an obligation.
It's an obligation.
In a way.
But they both feel it.
Oh yeah.
So...
It's fascinating. The dynamic is really fascinating.
Yeah.
And they both are, I feel like what we do know is that both of them are protecting each other. And they are both, hearkening back to them recounting the scene in the woods, they are both sticking to that story.
Oh boy.
They're
hard and
both,
fast.
they are both in it together.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I've read a couple of things that said that maybe they hadn't been so estranged over the last couple of years.
It's very possible.
I mean...
We don't know what's happened in between there.
Right.
All we know is that Martin says it's been a long time.
Right.
And we don't know how long that is. It doesn't necessarily mean it's back to 2002.
Right.
So... They could have. There could be something in between. There's one thing I wanted to bring up, which was the girl who's screaming.
Yeah.
That scene was really impactful as well.
Yeah.
And the things that she says when she says the man with the scars was the worst. Going back to my theory that there's the Yellow King isn't just. I don't believe the Yellow King is one. One figure.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I feel like it's part of the mythos, part of an overarching theme. And there are multiple players in this, and I feel like the tall man, who seems to be the man with the scars, the one she describes, is the torturer of the group, and he's the one who executes the violence on the victims.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other people pulling the strings, and they're definitely in governmental or religious or both positions.
Here's my question for you, for our viewers, for anybody. Seriously, have we seen anybody
with scars?
Yes.
Not yet. That I can see.
That we can.
You know what? If anyone has seen this, if anyone can point to someone that fits this description, because we have been looking, and we haven't found it. At first, I thought it was Billy Lee Tuttle. I thought he's always wearing really high collared shirts, and he's a very tall man, and you know, I do believe that he's part of it, but I don't think that he's the guy he wouldn't sully his hands, he wouldn't dirty his hands to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So,
I cannot think of anybody.
But if you guys have, please write in the comments, because we'd love to hear
any theories on who that might be, or have we just flat out not seen them yet? Yeah. Which is entirely possible.
Yeah. Also, something else I wanted to go back to, and I think his name is Fontenot. This is a character we haven't heard from in a long time, and he was in like the 2nd or 3rd episode.
What did he do?
Paraplegic.
Oh, right.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. That's what he was.
No, I just did it.
Well,
anyway.
that's okay.
But I feel like he hasn't been brought back in a while, so there's a story there too.
You want to go back to Yellow King?
Sure.
On that note, there's a character like that in one of the short stories in the Yellow King.
All right, fill me in.
It's the same one I always talk about. Clearly, this one had an impact on me, and I still have not learned the title of it.
Get the title down!
How many times do I have to read it? I know. It's story 1 in the King in Yellow. Okay, it's the first one in the anthology. The man who I've mentioned before, who is the untrustworthy narrator, who's been injured, who's been in a mental institution. Oh my gosh, when are we going to go back to him being in a mental institution? Are we ever going to hear more about Rust being institutionalized?
No.
Where is that on the timeline? It's later, isn't it?
I think so.
It's not before he becomes... Oh, maybe... I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, anyway. Maybe it's just context. Who knows?
I have to watch the series one more time.
It's crazy. Okay, so... Basically, in the King in Yellow, story number 1, I've mentioned him before, untrustworthy narrator, head injury, mental institution, subscribes to the King in Yellow, okay? Or, I'm sorry, the Yellow King, okay. There is a man who is described as disfigured and ugly and grotesque.
Okay, and you're saying that relates to the Fontenot?
Yes. Perhaps. Perhaps, I don't know, but there is...
He seems more of a victim to me.
Fontenot.
Yes. Well, you were saying that he ties into the first story.
He could.
That he could be a parallel character.
Because they're both
this disfigured character.
It's possible.
Tell me more about this character.
Well, basically, he and the narrator both believe in the Yellow King.
Okay.
They both are on board with the Yellow King, and they both are trying to kill a man that they believe to be in their way. Because they are insane and believe that this person is the only person who could defeat the Yellow King, and so they want to kill him.
I see.
And he cannot be married. And they give him and the narrator gives it's actually his cousin, not the disfigured man, the person they're trying to kill.
Okay.
They say to him, listen, the prophecy says you cannot do what you're about to do, and so I'm giving you a choice. You can go exile yourself, and I will let you live, but you just can't be here, or you can't marry this woman. Really, is what he's saying. Or I will kill you. Okay. Your choice. But the Yellow King must, fulfill his prophecy and whatever. So the disfigured man and the narrator are both in on it. They're both trying to push this prophecy forward.
Okay. Once again, I'm going to go back to my thing I said earlier in this episode, which is I can't get too far into the mythos of it because I think it's secondary. I still think it's secondary to the rest of the series as a whole. I would like to know what I want. The payoff that I want from the whole talk about the Yellow King in Yellow, and this influence, Carcosa, the rest of it is, I want to know what the impact is on the group that has been talking about the Yellow King. Like, why is it important to them?
Right.
I don't need to analyze the actual text myself. I just want to know, why is it so important? Why are we seeing Cthulhu-like images from the drawings of the children from the beginning of the series? We saw the spaghetti monster drawing. Directly, very much so similar to, not that Cthulhu is, Chambers, but there are these things that I want to know why they're important to the cult that's involved, to the people that are involved in these murders.
Yeah, my question is...
That's the only payoff I need for that.
Is it going to be a tip of the hat or is it more? That's, I think, my question.
A tip of the hat house.
Meaning, like this, you could possibly maybe draw a parallel between the man we saw in episode 1 or 2, the paraplegic gentleman, to the other character in the short story.
Sure.
Is it a tip of the hat, kind of going?
No, yeah, it could be. Yeah, like exactly acknowledging a text that obviously the writer appreciates. Absolutely, and I think we're you posted on our Twitter an article about
the
Alan Moore, Grant Morrison.
Yep.
My boyfriend is bringing home The Courtyard tonight, so I'm looking forward to reading that because that's one of the Alan Moores that I haven't read. But you can immerse yourself in a lot of these different texts. Nick Pizzolatto has already said that he's a big fan of Alan Moore and Grant Morrison. All of these things color and influence writers. So it's great to get those narrative and literary references and the tips of the hat, as you said. I think they add color, they add flavor, you know. But I don't think that it's the most important thing in this show, and I'm letting go of trying to figure out who's this person. I think it's just more. It'll be. I can't wait to see what the payoff is.
And I want to throw out one more question before we wrap up, because obviously we went long again. But you know what? We're building. Yeah. We're building on the whole series so far. This is going to sound crazy. I'm not saying this is what I want to happen. Okay. I'm just asking. Just asking. Is it possible that in the end, somehow, way, shape, or form, I just keep seeing like a tent revival. Like I keep seeing.
Oh, I think we're going to see something
in the dark,
like
and I see like things lit on fire.
We saw that from the very beginning. The very first scene, the very opening scene, is you see two shadows, maybe two bodies, and a field ablaze.
Right.
So we're going to see that because they have to bring that full circle. There's no way they've made that promise and they have to fulfill that for the audience.
Okay, so here's my question.
Yeah.
My question is there at all a possibility that in one of these episodes, probably the last one and probably in the end, we get a creature? Like an actual monster?
Can I be very, very clear on this? Fucking no. No fucking way.
So it's not possible.
If that happens, it's going to be lost for me. It's going to be, the show lost. Like, I'm out. No. Absolutely not. If they bring in the supernatural, fuck you.
What if it was drug-induced? What if it was drug-induced?
If it's a hallucination, that's like a dream sequence. Fuck that. No.
Okay.
Could I be any more clear?
No, okay. I don't think you can. Well, I'm just asking because I still would be. I
wouldn't mind seeing something. Maybe. I would have. Not that I wouldn't mind it. I would mind it. I would be more accepting of it if it were a hallucination. But I sure as heck hope they're not going that route. I really hope. I'm
just thinking about the drugs. I'm thinking about the idea that if it is, and I don't mean the Yellow King, King in Yellow, Lovecraft, whatever. I'm talking about the drugs, the church, the police, right? If all of those three things do fit together some way, which I think is what Cole is kind of getting at, is that they're all kind of intertwined,
he's definitely leading towards that.
So,
excuse me.
I'm still, our production assistant, once again, I'm still wondering if, to bring back the drink the Kool-Aid kind of, if we're going to get a Jonestown style massacre.
We're going to see, we've been saying this from a long time ago, actually, but we're going to see some bodies, and, we've only seen a couple so far, but
and maybe
there's so many people involved, we can't help but, I think we can't help but see more.
I wonder if we're going to, I would be really okay with some batshit Cthulhu hallucinations and stuff before everybody dies.
I think we're going to see.
I hope so.
I think we can't not see some sort of cult.
I want to see what
cult
they
revival.
see. That's I guess what I'm getting at.
And I feel like that's another promise that we've been made from the very beginning with all this talk about the Yellow King and all this other stuff and the pamphlets being put out, the cult fanaticism that's been weaved into this show. If they don't pay it off with having some sort of where we actually see those nests getting burned up, or see something tied in like that, where it's just mad, crazy Bacchanalian, Burning Man craziness. I feel
No, I'm not correcting you. You just thought that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. So that, I think we have to see that. I don't think we can not see that, you know? I think it'll be a big disappointment if we don't see something like that. So, right, Tiger? Yeah. So, that's what I'm hoping has to happen either in the 7th or 8th
Man,
episode.
a lot has to happen in 2 hours. I'm just saying.
I know.
Unless the finale is going to be long, which I don't know if it is. You know what I mean?
Can we find that out?
Maybe, probably. Know? Do you guys know?
Yeah,
tell us.
Tell us, we want to know.
We're curious. Last time we looked something up on our phone, we got it wrong. Yeah. So, all right, well.
Yeah.
Lots of questions.
Lots of questions.
Lots of cool
stuff.
stuff.
I wanted to bring up one more thing, which you mentioned before we started this, which was you said that you had a friend in the industry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so no spoilers. No spoilers.
This is nothing.
Nope. Nothing. Not going to give anything away.
Yeah. The Yellow King is my neighbor.
Yeah. Not going to give anything away, but a friend told me that the Yellow King is... No, just kidding. Okay, so as we said from the very, very beginning, Holly and I are fans. We're fans. We do work in the entertainment industry, but we are not doing this in affiliation with the entertainment industry. No. We get no screeners. We get no insight. Nothing. Now, I do know somebody who gets all of those things. Yeah. Exactly.
That being said.
And I am under the impression that the final episode, the finale, has not gone out to anybody. But I am under the impression
Which
that...
is smart.
Yes, so smart. But I am under the impression that episodes 1 through 7 are circulating in some way for press, screeners, things like that. So I do know people who have seen the entire series up until the finale.
Episode 7.
Finale. Yeah.
Right.
And they have told me... I think his exact quote was, I've seen the first 7, I still don't know what's going on. So it looks like it's all going to sort of come together in the end and really down to the wire in the end. But, you know, I think that it seems very deliberate.
Yeah.
I think everything so far seems very carefully plotted out, and I don't think that's the other thing that's so beautiful about the idea of doing the one director, one writer, one 450-page script. I
completely agree with that. Yeah,
it's not like, oh, they're getting the fan reaction, and they're going to change something. Oh, there's not enough sex, there's not enough magic, there's not enough.
No, like I was saying in our previous episode, it's complete. It's like it's from beginning to end. They know it's 8 episodes. They know it's the first series of this anthology, and they have to wrap it up. And that's why I think they maintain the consistency of having one director, one writer, and a very tight knit cast. And I can't wait to ask my friend Azure some detailed questions. She's gonna give me dirt.
All the dirt. Well, I do think, you know, just to sort of wrap up and sum up. Well, not to wrap up, but I do think on that point that they are using every single minute. Oh, they are using. There is no.
No, it's all economy. Here. No, they're economizing every single second.
And I love how the fact that this show was completed before it hit the air, before it was successful or not successful. The idea that that they are not going to. They don't care if the audience likes Rust or likes Marty or doesn't like Rust or doesn't. It doesn't matter.
And the only people that would take that gamble, again, as we said last week, HBO. I mean. Yeah. You gotta hand it to HBO.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. But I think that's really important because, you know, we're gonna, every minute, you know, sometimes with series finales, I guess is what I'm getting at, is that sometimes they feel kind of like sorry, this is kind of gross, but they blew their load on episode 9 or the penultimate.
Sure.
They go out big in the penultimate, and then the finale's just kind of like tie it up with a bow. Yeah. We're not gonna get that here.
All I want from the final scene or the final episode, at the end of it, when episode 8 is over, I want to look like this. Oh my God! That's what I want. That's all I want. Oh, yeah. I just want to be like, I want to be like shocked to my core and be shaken and cheering.
Well, that will be better than... What?
Yeah.
What?
Oh my God.
Really? Oh. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess. Yeah, we don't want that.
No, we don't.
We want
that.
the.
We don't want that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been a good episode, I think.
Yeah.
If I do say so myself. Pat, pat, pat. Thank you guys. Thank you. Pat, pat, pat. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to keep engaging it with us in the comments. Holly has been getting you back. And
yeah, I'm sorry I haven't responded to everyone's comments. I have been working as well, so
but we love that.
But we love hearing from you, and please, if you have stuff to add, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, fill us in on your thoughts, your theories, contributions, and reach out on Twitter.
Yeah,
we're both. I mean, we have this here for a reason. Talk to us. Please introduce yourself.
We should also say it's not on our screen here, but you can follow us at Welcome to TBC on Twitter, and that is the Boys Club, and
we have a Facebook page as well. Right. That link to that is in the notes below, so please like the page. True Detective is obviously wrapping up, but that doesn't mean that we're going anywhere. There's going to be a lot more coming from us, and we have other ideas and other shows and all sorts of fun things coming your way. So please subscribe to the channel. Talk to us on Twitter. Talk to us on Facebook. We like talking to people.
Yes.
And
you guys are a smart bunch, by the way.
You guys are so smart.
So smart. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Your comments are incredible, and I feel really proud that this show has fostered that sort of intelligence, because it's great.
And please invite people to join the discussion if they don't know about us, because this is our first endeavor as the Boys Club. So, all right, you have all the information. We'll see you next week for the Pet Ultimate.
See you next week.
Bye!